And opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Go Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 229. Today is Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. If you're out there on the YouTube or Facebook side, go ahead and say something in the chat. We don't know that you're out there unless you do. If you have a question or something like that, you can call or text in. Yes, you can call or text into the show utilizing the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends Rod and Shelly Gates at Aegis Gun Care. That phone number is scrolling. It is 530-364-4678. If you are a veteran, really anyone, but especially if you're a veteran and you're in that hole and you're trying to climb out of it and you're wondering if there's still light out there, remember, please call me, text me, email me 24/7. I cannot give you medical advice, but I sure as hell can probably be a decent ear and maybe talk you through some things. If you are looking for some way and someone to get you through some medical help, please remember two things. One, you are not alone in this fight. You have a lot of brothers and sisters out here that are willing to help. And two, the world is a much better place with you in it. So please, please, please utilize the Veteran Crisis Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Once again, 1-800-273-8255, the Veteran Crisis Hotline. As always, we spotlight the United States Marine Corps. If you have any questions on what it takes to earn the title United States Marine, please visit the website marines.com. And as always, we're a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Please check out all the great podcasts over at selfdefenseradio.net. Let me get this off of my ugly mug and say hello to our special guest tonight. Before we get to Rob Squared over here, we are going to bring in our shotgun writer, our quasi co-host from the great state of Texas, the tactical leprechaun. What's up, Clove?
Hey, man. Yeah.
How's it going, man?
It's all good.
Well, good. You are very talkative tonight. That's going to be wonderful. Since you are riding shotgun, as most people know, we do a shotgun of the week. Clover, what is the shotgun of the week?
Let's go with a Marlin Model 49.
A Marlin Model 49.
49.
I don't know anything about that one. You want to talk 2 seconds about what the hell that is?
Yeah. Pump shotgun was never in the Marlin catalog back in the day. I don't remember when, early-ish 1900s, 20s or 30s maybe. You were given that shotgun if you bought 4 shares of Marlin stock at $25 per share.
Well, I'll be.
Damn.
I may or may not have one of those.
So for $100, you're getting 4 shares of stock. And
I would gladly trade that for 4 shares of Marlin.
Right now, sure you would. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If anybody's interested, we could do a swap if you got 4 shares. That has to be the equivalent of 4 shares back then, but I would gladly trade that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Real quick, Screaming Skull Saloon says, remember to hit the thumbs up button. We always like that. More importantly, says, order me a large pepperoni pizza. So I think he's probably hungry. I think we all probably are at this point. So we're going to bring in our special guest for the week. Remember, guys out there, we didn't put up any polls out this week. I forgot. I'm not going to lie. I forgot to put my polls out, but I did put one out there in the chat. So for right now, we're going to, we're going to let this go. It's got 16 votes. We're going to let it go for a little while. What is the most important when buying a gun? Price, features, aesthetics, or customer support? Make sure you vote in that poll, and we'll take a look at those results a little bit later. Throughout this podcast, guys, if you're live and you have a question for myself or either one of the Robs about what we're talking about, please tag myself or CloverTac, and we'll try to get those questions answered if they are related to the conversation. So there's a lot of people out there wanting to know what's going on. So we are going to welcome Well, Rob Squared. We have Rob C and Rob F, both from Lionheart Industries and home of the Regulus pistol. If you guys are not familiar, we're getting ready to dive into that rabbit hole. So let's bring them in real quick. We met Rob Curtis, Rob C, at SHOT Show and had some really cool conversations with him and all that. So it's been about a month since we've seen you. But how's it going, Rob? Everything going good with you?
Yeah, man, I made it back from SHOT Show in good shape, or so I thought. I picked up a little bit of the Omicron while I was there, and
here,
yeah, I'm sure people did, but it gave me a new perspective. I really be healthy and moving around.
Yeah, for me, I just got I don't know how bad you got, but I just got like a head cold, congestion, and I lost my taste for a couple of days. I never got a fever. I never felt bad. The weirdest thing was losing my taste. It was when you're getting ready to eat something and you know what it's supposed to taste like, and then it's just nothing. It was very weird. I'm not going to lie.
Well, the version I had was probably similar to yours, but had such brain fog and such fatigue that I was really been about days since I've been feeling much better. So I'm grateful to be over it. Shit out of the way.
Sounds good. And we've got, so Rob, real quick before we jump into this. So for people who know, we're going to call them Rob C and Rob F. Rob, what are your responsibilities real quick over at Lionheart?
My responsibilities?
Yeah.
So marketing for the company, a little bit of sales, and I'm the guy that answers the phones. And if people send emails in to the we care at lionheart.com, those go right to my inbox, and I try to make everybody a happy customer.
That's awesome. And the next person we're bringing in is Rob F. We're going to call him Rob F. We got Rob Squared, DJ Easy Rock and Rob Bass. It takes two here. So we're going to bring Rob F in. What's going on, Rob? Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We appreciate it very much.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, you're the head honcho over there at Lionheart, correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, I am the guy.
I've always wanted to know what it's like to be the CEO of a gun company. It'd be pretty cool, but I bet you there's a lot of stress involved with that as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you knew what you were in for, you would never sign up for it.
Well, we're glad you have you on, and we're going to talk some really cool stuff. We're going to talk your company. We're going to talk your products, and anything else that comes down the line. I'm sure we'll jump into it as well. Before we get going, we like to have a little fun and have a little rapid fire. So I'm going to throw a couple questions at you. Rob C., this is for you. 50 BMG or an MP5?
MP5 all day.
I like it. Rob F., Luke Skywalker or Han Solo?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
That's an easy one.
I go with Luke Skywalker.
All right, I'm going to mute Rob F. for the rest of the show because that was the wrong I've always been a Han guy because he's a smart ass. No one expects anything from him. He gets Princess Leia, so I mean, let's just go with that. People are saying Skywalker. I don't believe anything out there in the Skywalker. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go back to Rob F. on this one. What was your first car?
Mine?
Yep, your first car.
A Chevrolet Lumina Black. It's a 4-door sedan. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing special about that car.
Hey, it was a car. That's what's special about it, right?
It was, and I made the most of it. I'm a big car guy, so I took that car and I tinted the front headlights yellow. Probably the most tacky thing you could do, but as a 16-year-old, it sounded cool. 5% tint on the windows, and then I removed the entire rear seat and built an 8 cubic foot subwoofer box with interchangeable ports. So I can both compete in SPL competitions, but I could also change out the port, retune it for music, some musicality, so I could drive down the street and listen to it. And my friends would always tell me they knew I was coming because they could hear me a block away. I literally was that guy.
That's awesome. Gizzard Gary out there says he had a 2000 Lumina a while back, so he knows what you're talking about.
There you go. And mine had manual crank windows and manual door locks.
You got to your manual air conditioner, man. That's how the air conditioner used to roll,
Yeah, I think that's the last car they ever made with manual windows, and I got it. So maybe it's a bit special.
There's something special about that car. There's something special about that car. Last question, we'll go to Curtis and say, is a hot dog a sandwich?
This one's harder than the Han Solo one.
It is.
I'm going to say it is. Can I say it's almost a sandwich?
I guess you could. Sure.
It's like halfway to a sandwich.
It's halfway. See, I don't think it's a sandwich because I think sandwich is 2 pieces of bread and it's a hot dog bun, But then the argument comes in as a sub sandwich than a sandwich because a lot of times it's 1 piece of bread too. So it's all over the place. But I always say when you go to a restaurant, is a hot dog underneath the sandwich or is it its own thing? I think a hot dog and a burger are its own thing. So I don't know. That's why we ask the tough questions around here.
Well, a hamburger's got to be a sandwich then.
Because it has 2 pieces of bread.
Right.
Right.
So a hot dog is its own animal. I think I'm gonna go with you on that one.
I think it's I don't know. Clover and I, we've been doing this for a lot of years. And, I would say it's about 60-40, 60 lean towards not a sandwich, but there's still a large contingency of people out there that think it's a sandwich. So we continue to ask the question. It's fun. So Rob dropped out. We'll see if he comes back in. Says device is not connected. He must have pushed the button or might have lost. He'll come back in. We'll get him here in a second.
Probably tried to mute. Hit the wrong button. Happens.
He very well could have hit. Yep, I think he's back. Oh, nope, not let me back in yet, but he'll come back. So we'll start with Rob C. And I want to kind of get, first of all, let's start off by kind of your background, because you've got an interesting background, a long background in the firearms industry, but kind of give people maybe your background and how that led to Lionheart.
Well, my interest in guns sort of comes from a military perspective. I worked for the Military Times for about 17 years. As a photojournalist. And then I started a blog while I was there called Gear Scout. And that sort of led me to an interest in all kinds of things, but guns definitely were an interesting part of that thing. And when I decided to leave that company and join Recoil, I ended up at Recoil for about 5-6 years as the executive editor. And then once I left Recoil, I decided to cash in a little bit and see what it was like on the dark side. After dealing with that industry on one side, I felt like I had a pretty decent handle on things and could see if I could put some of my skill set to use on the industry side. And that's when, I talked to Rob. We spent about, a month and a half talking about it before I decided to jump and go for it and join Lionheart. I mean, it's a small company doing some really, really cool things in the industry. It's kind of unheard of, some of the things that we're doing, the way that we're working to make sure that to make an absolutely top quality product without cutting any corners at all, and really looking out for everything. I reviewed a lot of guns when I worked for Recoil and the Military Times as well. So I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on what people really expect out of guns. And I'm trying to channel all of that, that inner cynicist into, a really top-notch firearm. And
absolutely. Before we move on, a quick shout out, mandatory carry, $3 super chat. Appreciate you guys. We do not ask, nor do we expect or ask for super chats. We don't do anything with that. But if you do, know that all the money generated through super chats, we send that money to send care packages overseas to our troops downrange. So thank you for that, mandatory care. I appreciate you every week, bro. Thank you for supporting our troops overseas. I appreciate it. And Rob C, we'll go back to Rob. When we first met and we were outside, actually we met inside, talked a while, and we happened to run each other outside. And we talked for a lot more. And when you've told me about the recoil and all that, that was really interesting because I don't know many people that are involved in the corporate side of firearms that have that long and extensive background of, it's still media, but especially like a print media, going back. And that's got to give you guys some advantages of at least knowing the media side of how it works. So that was pretty cool. And recoil's still recoil, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Recoil is a great publication. It's run by some really top-notch people. They take no prisoners in any of the reviews, and
That's right.
It's really really on a mission to make sure that people, if they're going to spend money on a gun, they're going to get what they expect to get out of it. And you don't always get that with a gun, and we're there to try to hold people's feet to the fire. I was there to do that, and now moving forward, with Lionheart, I carry those same expectations forward. And having a professional gun reviewer on your staff is probably not the easiest thing, as Rob can probably attest to. I'm probably pickier, I'm at least as picky as our
but that's
most
a good
picky
thing.
customer, if not more so.
Yeah, I think that's actually, and you and Rob, I'm sure, have interesting conversations, but having that gun reviewer and all of that, especially one that has holding companies' feet to the fire, I think that probably helps in what you guys are doing, because you know what you're looking for out of a firearm and what people seem to be looking for out of a firearm. And if you're able to implement that into your own, that's probably going to be a thing that works out for you guys for sure.
Let's hope
Let's
so.
go to, let's hope so. Let's go to Rob F. Let's go to the CEO. And I want to kind of get your story, because I don't know how old you are, but you definitely look younger than any of us that are in this room. So I want to know maybe your background in firearms, and how the hell did you get to decide to purchase and grow a firearms company? Because that's fascinating to me.
I think you're
Okay,
muted.
You're muted,
Okay,
I think.
Rob.
I don't know if you're muted or not, but I can't hear a word you're saying. Uh-oh.
No, you're still glitch.
Let me go down to that camera mic button down below and see if it's hooked up to your audio somehow.
Yeah,
Nothing.
glitched when he jumped.
Maybe
It might have
yell
glitched. So
louder.
go ahead and leave, and then come back in. We'll see if it might have glitched when you jumped out. Let's see if it comes back in here in a second. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know, because once again, we were talking earlier, Rob, and I say that I would love to own my own gun company, but I really don't know if I would. I really don't know if I would. Like I said, it's got to be stress, especially with the design, the ideas, and you can only do so much with guns. So coming up with something original has got to be pretty tough too sometimes.
Well, it's a hell of a lot of fun, and that's exactly what you're talking about, is coming up with something original and really challenging ourselves to look at where the industry is going, to sort of look at what we've got now in our hands and then decide where we want to be. That is actually a lot of fun. We have some really great conversations, in our staff meetings about where we want to take the company and what products we want to put out.
I hear Rob, so it sounds like we got audio back. So Rob, once again, I don't know if you heard me, but kind of give maybe the audience a background and your background in firearms, and then the whole decision-making process of getting involved with Lionheart and now having your own firearm company.
Well, yeah, I'd love to tell that story. It's a fairly long story, so I'm going to try to just hit the highlights.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to be an engineer. I've been taking things apart since I was probably old enough to handle a screwdriver. I take apart little small engines, and I remember putting one back together with no gaskets, and I was able to get it running, just a little weed eater engine. It was spurting gas out the side like an arterial bleed, but it freaking ran. I was so happy. I never did anything with it. I was gonna make a little go ped, but I never did. Story of my life. I have lots of unfinished projects.
I think we're all like that. That was a great way to end it. So mandatory carry real quick before Rob jumps in. I'll ask you, Rob, manufacturing or design? Which I maybe he's asking which one you like better from the business side of it.
Well, I guess, we're doing both at the moment. We've got engineers that are, that are working on the guns with us. Design is way more fun. Design is something that you can really, be creative with, and manufacturing is something that, for people that really like, ones and zeros, things are very precise. And I know
I like to nerd out on that stuff. Yeah. I'm not that guy. I'd more like being design probably. I think we got Rob back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm using a different browser, so let's see if this is
okay.
better.
Sounds good. So you ended up on a great spot if it worked out great, but you have a lot of unfinished projects. Bam, mic drop. I'm out.
Yeah. So that's just like my childhood. I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. Well, even before I knew, that's kind of what direction I was headed. So going to school, I went to graduate. I went to Purdue University, mostly because it was.
Might be. I don't know if it's browser. Clover, have you had this issue with people? Is it browser? Or is it maybe internet or what?
Nah, internet doesn't usually do that. It usually hangs
Oh.
up. So yeah, he's maybe getting a browser glitch. There may be a plug-in or
Yeah,
something taking
I don't
over
know
his
if
mic.
Rob, if you can hear me. I don't know if you can or not. Try Chrome if you have access to Google Chrome. I don't know. That's the one that I use, and I've never had an issue. So it might be Safari. I think he said he's on a Mac. So Safari, I don't know. Firefox, I know some people use Firefox and have an issue, but
Now Gizzard's out there. Gizzard's the Mac guy as far as
That's
that
true.
end of it. So maybe
he's on a PC. I'm on a Mac, but he's using his computer in the office, and that's a PC. So, and we use it all the time for our meetings. So I'm not sure what's going on. It might be something to do with the software.
The phone always works. The phone always works. There we go. All right.
This story is great, Rob.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
It happens. It happens, and there's no telling what. It might be a StreamYard glitch for all I know.
Welcome to live.
Yeah,
Let me try to put this in real quick.
All right. Oh, he went black. All right, there we go. I see you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Whoa.
What is going on?
I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
All right.
Yeah, I can hear you. This is not
okay. I can hear you fine now, so I think we're good.
Yeah, for being a technical guy, I'm sure I'm being tested.
Well, we'll get through it. We'll get
forged
through it.
in fire. It happens.
That's
there
right.
You go.
That's right.
So back to the story. So I went to Purdue mostly because it was easy to get into. I was never the guy who had the best grades, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew if I got into the school that I could succeed really well because I'm so driven. So I went to school, graduated with an electrical engineering degree, and then took a job in Florida because it was way too cold in the Midwest. So moved to Florida, took a job for a government contractor. They actually originally did like bullet loaders. So they load like 20 millimeter rounds into aircrafts, and they built a machine that would load those into the aircrafts. They moved away from that, and then we started doing fuel automation systems. So I was the engineer, like embedded engineer that does all the firmware and hardware to control pumping fuel into like jets. The accounting for the fuel being pumped into jets, and then it got billed back to each base, whoever the plane belonged to. So we did that. I did that for a few years. I met my wife and then moved to Atlanta, and I took a job working as, again, for another defense company called Mega Training Systems. It was actually FATS at the time. It was Firearms Training Systems. And it became Mega, and I was really drawn to it because it was firearms simulators. That seemed really cool to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So how do you go from there to running Lionheart? I mean, that's gotta be interesting. That's gotta be an interesting transition, right?
Yeah. So just, I guess I've always been an entrepreneur, never realized it. So I really didn't like the corporate world, just being stuck in a cubicle and looking around, seeing guys that were 30 years my senior and realizing I was going to be them. I was going to be that guy sitting in the cubicle making just an inflation adjusted same wage, really, because we were getting 3% raises a year if we got them at all. So, and I made decent money. Don't get me wrong. I couldn't complain. I lived a solid middle class life, but
right.
I just aspire for more in everything I do. So I just started doing some side hustle. I just started contracting or consulting for electrical engineering, and I use like freelance. I was thinking it was elance.com, freelancing website. Put my profile up there, my background, and got hired to do bid on some jobs. That I ended up designing circuit boards. I think I averaged $5 an hour by the time I finished that project because I underbid so low. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like any other business, that was the learning curve. I ended up getting a really big customer to design self-checkout kiosks. And he came to my house, I was working at my home office while working my day job, and asked me, hey, could you put this kiosk we had made in a CAD? And I was like, yeah, sure. He said, have you ever done sheet metal work? And I said, no. I said a little bit, but it was a white lie. I hadn't done any, but I was so hungry for the business that I told him I had done some. And he said, I asked him later, I said, why did you hire me instead of the other 7 guys you interviewed? And he said, because you wanted it the most. I guess I convinced him I sold him essentially. So I did that for a while until I got so busy with so many hours that I was actually able to quit my day job. Now, keep in mind, I was working, this is no exaggeration, at least 20-hour days. So I would go do my day job for 8 hours. I'd come home, I'd eat dinner, I'd go to the home office. I'd kiss my wife and go to at the time my girlfriend, go to the home office and then sit there until basically the sun came up. If I went to bed before the sun came up, I was usually pretty happy. If I went to bed after the sun came up, I was really, really not happy. So
Wow.
I'd get a couple hours of sleep and then go to work, drink a couple Red Bulls, and on my way into the office, and then proceed to do my best to stay awake all day and be somewhat productive, albeit I was not that productive as you can imagine. And that went on for probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months before I got another he had a project. And I said, I told the wife, I was married at this time, actually. I told the wife that I couldn't do both. There were just too many, the numbers just didn't add up. There were not enough hours in the day to both do my day job and that. And I had been recently called into my boss's office and essentially reprimanded for not being productive as I had been. So I was like, now's the time. I wanted to leave on a good foot. I didn't want to leave any burned bridges because that's not who I am. So yeah, so I put in my notice, and those 2 weeks were excruciating because I just saw the work stacking up. Anyway, quit that. I'm going to try to jump ahead now because that's kind of instrumental. People want to know, like, how do you go from working for somebody to quitting, and doing your own thing? That's pretty instrumental to how we got here. So from there, I just wanted to design my own products. I'm designing products for other people, and I just wanted to do my own thing. I've been designing products like little gadgets. Like I designed a boost controller for a turbo car I'd built. All kinds of little things that never made it to market. They go on the shelf and be unfinished forever. They live their life on the shelf. So that's what I designed the Exotec Nano Striker. So little known fact, maybe, I don't know. I also own Exotec. So we're a premier survival manufacturer.
Really?
So we manufacture all kinds of fire starting goods. We've started to get into more EDC and just general purpose. Yeah. So I designed that through a friend. He was working he had gotten laid off, and he started an outdoor store, and I saw what was on the market. I'm like, they were just plastic handles with a rod pressed in them, and they were just junk straight from China. There was just nothing exciting. Even the ones that were like well made were a wood handle somebody had turned on a lathe, and they were beautiful, but they were really expensive. And then they put a rod in it. The state of the art at the time was not very advanced, and I just looked at that and said, hey, I think I can do better. And I'm skipping parts of the story because it's just too long of a story, but I basically designed my own, and then had to create a website, and I bought, my wife and I, we had saved, we had 10 grand in the bank, and that was everything, including all the money I'd made consulting.
You threw everything in the game, huh?
Yeah. So I bought 1,000 of each and just said, hey, if I could sell them in a year, it would just be extra money. It would be passive income those were literally the words I used. It ended up being far less than passive, but so every day I'd come home from work and I'd ship. So I'd go and ship all the orders. Then I'd go work on my computer. So now I had well, actually that was going on for a little while I was still working, but so I had 3 jobs at one point. So anyway, so that was Exotec. So
you were the shipping director as well. That's a job in itself. I know the hassles of having to ship stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and my wife had a full-time job, so she wasn't able to really. I mean, she'd help me ship at home when I got home, but I mean, she's working and she's stressed just like everybody else. So, so that jump ahead, it's that was in 2009 when I first sketched my first products, which was a Nano Striker and the Exotec Mash Cap. So we're 13 years later, and I still own Exotec. Matter of fact, what you see in the rear are photos I printed on canvas. I think
oh, that's pretty cool.
maybe 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
So that's the match caps on top. It's got some 5.56 rounds AR mag. Then the original match caps on the bottom, and then you got the Nano Striker at the upper right and the Poly Striker at the lower left. So
Nice.
yeah, so that company, we just went through trade shows, and that's where I met Rob. Actually, I met Rob at a Blade show, the biggest knife show in the world, which is right here in Atlanta.
It was in Atlanta. Yeah, I got a friend of mine that went there last year. So it was awesome.
Yeah, Rob worked for Military Times, and I had come across an article that was published about the top 10 fire starters, and it had been published like I mean, at this point it's 2012, so it had been published maybe 6 months or 12 months earlier. And I had emailed Rob, and he never got back to me, and I was kind of annoyed by that. I was like, why did he not get back to me?
Now, did he trash your stuff? Is that why you wanted to get a hold of him?
No, I was upset that my fire starter was not in his magazine, because it had been around for like all of maybe 2 years, and to me, being so naive at the time, I had no idea how the cycle
Why is that number one? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't care if he dogged it. I just wanted a fair chance at being ranked and rated. That's all I've ever asked for, is a fair chance. So when he actually dropped by the booth, and the first time I'd ever talked to him or meet him, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Rob Curtis." I'm like, "You're the mother, you know what, who won't answer my freaking email." Like, I had so many mixed emotions. It's like seeing a celebrity, but it was also like seeing like your bully from school or whatever, right? Like, you're just like, right. I don't know if I want to kiss you, if I want to punch you. So
I'm glad you chose one of those. I'm glad you chose one that you did. I'm not going to say which one it was.
Right, yeah, chose the right way, regardless.
It went pretty well after that.
Yeah. So Rob, I just asked Rob. I realized I knew nothing about media, print, marketing. I know nothing about any of that at the time. So I asked Rob. I said, I think I asked him, like, how would I learn? He's like, just ask people, just ask questions. And so then I asked him, hey, will you? My wife and I are going to go to dinner. Can we take you to dinner? And can I pick your brain? Dinner's on me. And he's like, yeah, no problem. Food.
Yeah.
So we went to Cheesecake Factory. That meeting resulted in me meeting Denny Inc., which is a pretty well renowned PR firm out in where Jackson. Are they?
Jackson, Wyoming.
So they do PR, or they did at the time. I haven't checked in with for like Arc'teryx, I think Solomon, a bunch of really big outdoor brands. And then here was my brand, which nobody really knew of. And we were able to work a deal where I could afford their monthly retainers somehow. And they got us published with their help. We got published in like Backpacker, Outside Magazine, just a bunch of great magazines. This is before social media was anything or even existed. So that was the only outlet you really had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's skip. So all those years, I was first importing the products because nobody would make them in the USA. Finally, I had no choice but to learn. I couldn't find anybody who could make them for an affordable price that I thought the market would bear. And so I just said, we're going to outsource them as long as we can until I can find somebody, or I'm bringing it in the house. I found a guy in North Georgia, local to us, about 2 hours away, to do them. He got a medical job, contract job, and made way more money. So after like 12 months of making our products, he just got so far behind he couldn't keep up. So I had a choice, either sending it back to China, bringing it in-house, or shutting down the business. At that point, I had employees, just a few, and I had a place I was renting. So I had real bills, and it was a real job. So I bought a clapped out machine. I call it the equivalent of having 1,000,000 miles on a truck. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just the idea and the decision to take this to a manufacturing side, you're literally at that point, if you weren't already all in, you were pushing everything to the middle, saying we're all in, we're going to try this. And that takes balls. And so, I mean, that just kind of shows what kind of person you are. Like, let's go take a chance, because that could have been the end of it all. Real quick, G23 says, wants to know where you guys are located. You guys are still in Georgia, correct? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Lionheart's in Georgia.
Yeah. So I thought that's what it was, but yeah. So you bought the manufacturing press to where now you can start making it in-house, and that's taken you to where we are right now.
Yep. So we bought that. We ended up, it took me 6 months to get the machine running. It had bent drive shafts, bad bearings, bad wiring. The dealer sold it as good. He actually had to pay to truck it all the way back, rig it out, truck it all the way back to Ohio, then truck it all the way back down and rig it back in, because I mean, I was not going to put up with that. I was going to either bring them down with me just through social, through they were a new dealer of Citizen machines. They sold me this used machine, so it wouldn't have been hard to run that up the ladder and just say, hey, I paid a ton of money for this machine and I have a 5-year note on it, and it literally is completely worthless. So they got it working, gave it back to me. And I mean, granted, I was buying an old machine. It still was a 6-figure machine. It cost me 6 figures. It was their most advanced machine they had ever made, and that's why it was so expensive. But it would do all of my parts. One machine that could do all of my parts because I couldn't afford two. So needless to say, that machine I probably threw parts at it once a month. Told the wife as soon as I could afford to buy a new one, I would. And by afford,
or
I meant
one, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I meant just the payment. So finally, I did that. So let's jump ahead.
I'm making a note right now, Rob. Vindictive will take you down with him. Good to know. Good to know.
I mean, yeah, I'm a really
no. You have to be. It's dog eat dog, man. You had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a really nice guy until you screw me, and then then that side comes out. But other than that, I'd do anything for my friends. I'd do anything.
I'm the same way. You screw me once, and I'm not a very fun person to be around. So I like people like that because you're always going to know where you stand with me. And that's all I ever want from someone. Good, bad, and different. I want to know where I stand with you. And I think that's the only way to go. And people say, well, I don't know, he likes me. Oh, no, you'll know if I don't like you. I promise you, you'll know very quickly if I don't like you. So, and that's all you can ever ask from someone, really.
Yeah, it's the same.
All right. So man, this is crazy, man. You've had a hell of a life.
It's been challenging. So let's jump ahead to what is it? It was 2020 when it was COVID, in the heat of COVID. And so by this time, Exotec was doing great. COVID, I was in fear that I was going to lose my entire business. What were they saying? They were saying they were going to shut businesses down. And I mean, I couldn't run. If we were down for a month, I mean, that'd be a death knell. It probably wouldn't kill us, but it would probably be the beginning of the end. So, I mean, manufacturers, we run on really, really thin margins. I don't care what you make. If you're manufacturing in the USA, you're running on less than 10% net profit, which means you don't have much room, especially a young business like this. We just don't have the cash reserves that a 30-year business would. So I was terrified of that. Lots of stress. Then I was texting DJ, which was he's the guy who created Lionheart. He's the original founder. And we had met early on during the outdoor retailer days of Exotec when I was doing trade shows. And we had a very similar design eye. He was, it's very hard to find somebody who's as meticulous as me about design and just expectations. And he was that guy. So we bonded really well. And we would talk like once or twice a year. Not often. He lives in Washington State. I texted him and said, hey, I need a break from COVID. And this is in like the summer. I said, I'm going to fly out there. I'm going to rent a dirt bike and we're going to go ride in the mountains because Washington has the most incredible dirt, like the most incredible black dirt for dirt biking, which I've done all growing up. So I wanted to go out there and just kind of take my mind off of it, just get lost in the woods for days and do some bike
just forget about everything. Yeah.
Yep. And he said, well, that sounds like a lot of fun. We should do that. But how about you buy my company? And I'm like,
Much less stressful. Great stress reliever, DJ. Thanks.
Yeah, right. Just what I need. So I'm like, just like you guys, I was like, what? Like, dude, there's no way. I appreciate you having that much confidence that Exotec is doing that well, but surely you guys are killing it, and there's no way I can afford to buy that company. Super long story short. We worked out a deal. We struck a deal that worked for both of us, and they were really between models of firearms. So they had Lionheart. The story of Lionheart, they quick and dirty is DJ was out in South Korea trying to import some old M1 Garands. They have so many. I don't even know how many tens of thousands they have that they saved from the war. Some of them are new old stock in drums, still in all the Cosmoline that they shipped them in. Very, very valuable. So he was trying to negotiate with them. He had made friends over there. Everybody loved DJ in South Korea. So apparently, in order to import those, you need permission from the State Department, and then it goes out for bid, and it becomes this whole thing. You can't just go over there and say, I want to buy these guns and get a license to import them here. So he realized it wasn't going to happen quickly, and he's also a big entrepreneur and risk taker like me. So he, I think at the time, S&T or Tassan, the ones who were building the pistol, said, well, hey, we have, you know, this line of firearms, and you could import these instead. These are all made brand new. And that's how the Lionheart LH9 came.
LH9, yeah, sure.
Yeah. He realized that was a firearm that people were familiar with, who had fought in the war. And a lot of people, or I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there was a niche in the States of people who would like to import those. So that's the role he took on. And other companies have imported them over the years. And he imported them and created the Lionheart brand to put on them, and did some cosmetic and some other functional improvements to the firearm before importing them. There you go.
So there's the LH9 guys, and there's still on your website is the legacy guns are still available. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, because talking with Rob C at SHOT, there's some cool stuff that you guys are doing with those legacy firearms, which I think is cool. But so you get into the firearm. Was this something that you had ever dreamed of as being involved with a firearms company at that point?
Actually, yeah. So when doing the Exotec thing, I realized that, you know, I'd sat across the table from a lot of buyers from everywhere from REI to Academy Sports. I mean, we had Academy Sports for one point before I fired them. And they, just seeing what they want, they were like, they were just looking for the lowest price. REI was their best customer until COVID. We had REI as a customer. Well, we got dropped during COVID because they were social distancing, and they actually removed a ton of SKUs from their floor to make space. But they were the best customer we ever had. As far as the big box stores go, they literally set the bar high. Academy is equivalent to Walmart. They will rake you over the coals. So I just learned that I didn't want to be an accessory if I were going to do another manufacturing company. Exotec, you know, it was like it was really difficult to get attention of buyers, because we're not a main category. We're not apparel. We're not footwear. We're not kayaks. We're not bicycles. We're literally just they consider it a lot of times an impulse buy. So I started looking when we would go to SHOT Show. I'd been to SHOT Show many times, and I was like, I would love to get into the firearms industry, just because it seemed just something so neat about it. Being an electrical engineer, the mechanical simplicity of it, the fact that it's all mechanical in a day where everything is electrified was really fascinating. And the fact that how everything moves together, a lot of people have no idea, and I learned this even more, how much it takes to make a firearm run. The timing of everything. If you change a single spring in a firearm, it can cease to fire completely. So that to me was very challenging, and unbeknownst to me at the time, it's far more challenging than I expected. But I love a challenge. For me, I don't do it for the money. I do it for the challenge, because I mean, more stuff just, you know, you buy more shit, it just owns you. So for me, I like challenges. I like to conquer challenges. I like to make my mark. So yeah, that's I don't know. That's
awesome. That's awesome. All right, guys, it's been a great show. I'm just kidding. It is cool, because everyone that I've talked to that are involved with firearm companies, they have their own unique story, and very few of them ever said, when I first started out in life, I never thought about doing this. I never thought I'd be here. And it's amazing how the winds and the turns and the different creeks get you to that river. And it is fascinating, especially how you two hooked up. You know, it is fascinating. I know you were talking about the LH9. Before we get into the Regulus, which I love, I want to get into that for sure. But talking with Rob C at SHOT Show, one of the things that came up was kind of the old, I don't want to say the old, but I guess you guys call them the legacy products. Mm-hmm. And they're still available, but there is a caveat to some of the legacy items that are out there. And I thought that was really cool, because a lot of companies don't honor and don't try to work with firearm owners of previous regimes, if you will. They try to set themselves apart and rebrand or whatever. You guys decided not to rebrand Lionheart. You kept the name, understanding that there comes a part of the previous regime's firearms or whatever, whether it's warranty issues or whatever it may be, there's a play in that. So I thought that was really cool. Either one of you can jump in there and kind of talk about, if you have someone out there that is an LH9 owner from the previous regime, they can still contact you, can they not, about those products?
Yeah, we really pride ourselves on taking our customers with us. I think that a lot of people that, they may have cut their teeth on an LH9, and the Regulus is sort of the next generation of the LH9. So, we worked very hard to make sure that a lot of the parts, almost all the parts, are still backwards compatible between the Regulus and the LH9 series too. So, unfortunately, there's some things we can't continue to support. Obviously, we're not importing the pistols anymore, and some of the main components, but we still do have a lot of parts left. We still do want to make sure that if folks have issues with their LH9, please reach out to us and we'll take care of it.
Absolutely. And so I think that's great, because a lot of people may not do that. And that's really good business. That's good customer service. And that's really cool. Let's talk about the Regulus. And there's several different models. I'm going to be sharing the screens, and I'm going to let both Robs, you kind of decide which one wants to talk about certain things, but talk about the background of the Regulus, the design of it, the whole idea of where the Regulus came from.
Well, the whole Regulus is really based on the legacy product, that LH9, the action, and it's based on the double action plus trigger system that was developed for that gun. We carried that forward, and we listened to a lot of what people wanted, and this is a product that was between generations, as Rob had mentioned. So when Rob bought the company, Regulus was pretty much still a work in progress, and we were able to finish it off. But a lot of the things that you see on this pistol were things that people that had LH9s really, really wanted to see, like the Picatinny rail system. They also wanted, better sights. So we upgraded the sights on the gun. We ditched those horrible, ugly grips and put these awesome G10 grips on there. I think that was one of our first conversations about the gun, Rob, when we were like, if we're going to sell this gun, the first thing that you look at this gun, I think the grips stand out. Those G10 grips stand out really, really well, and make that gun handle so much better than those cheap plastic grips that were on the LH9. In moving this project forward, we had some machining left to do on the inventory as we got up. So people might recognize some issues that, with the LH9 series, that we worked really hard to make sure that if any parts that we made on this pistol, for example, we decided to re-engineer the recoil spring assembly system in the gun to make it more compatible with a wider range of ammunition and make it more reliable. And one of the things that one of the design limitations or whatever, was it had to be backwards compatible, so that if guys want to run if guys wear out their recoil spring in their LH9, we have a recoil spring assembly system that will work with that gun. So again, we want to make sure we bring our customers forward with us.
Absolutely. Now this is kind of going into the design, and we're talking about the trigger and the whole idea. It was cool because I had never really handled a gun that had the double action plus system on it. And I know this is a big part of the design, but I think it's really awesome because this is going to be something that I think for people that want to carry this gun, maybe people that aren't comfortable typically carrying one in the chamber or not even carrying at all because of safety issues, or they don't feel right doing it. This could bring a whole new revolution to the carrying. And I know it's probably not why it was designed, but I think it's definitely something that could be talked about. But the whole double action plus trigger system, I think, is fascinating with this gun. Do you guys want to go into some technical sides of what exactly is the double action plus trigger?
Yeah, so the double action plus trigger, basically, if guys know what an HK LEM trigger is, it's something sort of similar to that. It's the way I describe it is a manual LEM. And if you take the gun, which I happen to have right here, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure this thing is safe and there's no ammunition in it, so we're good. No source of ammunition. Right. So when the gun is initially, when you bring the gun out, you can cock the gun and you'll see the trigger move back like you would on any double single action gun, right? And what we can do is push the hammer forward, and that keeps the mainspring tension still on the mainspring, but that trigger pull is now about maybe a pound and a half back to the wall. And so what you get is you can just pull right through that trigger, and it feels almost like, like a 2.5 pound trigger. In reality, it's probably about a 4.5 to 5 pound trigger. But once you move through the whole action of the trigger, it feels a hell of a lot lighter, and it's incredibly smooth.
Yeah, it is.
So there's no herky jerky with the trigger, and even if you want to run the trigger in double action, it's hard. It's super awkward to do it this way. But we pride ourselves on how smooth that trigger action is. And the other thing to notice is after you go back and put that forward, do this without pointing the gun at my own head, you can see that there's an indicator in there, that little green line, and that's letting you know that hammer, that the mainspring is active, and you're in that double action plus mode where the hammer is going to come back nice and easy. The trigger is going to come back nice and easy on you.
Yeah.
So that's double action plus, and it's sometimes referred to as triple action. I've heard it called triple action before as well, but we call it double action plus.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful idea. Like I said, first time I was at the booth and we were handling and all of that, and you guys were talking about it, I was like, oh, that's awesome. I mean, because it's one of those things where it has a lot of different.
One of
the back saying it looks like a 2-stage. Jump in here, Clove. You know better than that. Just jump on in here.
No, I was just going to say it works sort of like a 2-stage trigger.
A 2-stage trigger absolutely.
Yeah, so you've got the safety, guys that like the safety factor of having a nice long double action pull. You've got that. So the gun can be run in that position with the safety off. It also does have a manual safety on the side.
Yep.
But you can run the gun in that double action mode that way, and just carry it as you would a regular double action. And it's completely the trigger's disconnected from the fire control system at that point. It's a disconnecting safety. So the idea there is it's extremely safe. And once you pull through that trigger in double action plus mode, you'll feel how light it is, and you have the confidence of knowing that gun is going to take an extremely long trigger pull to go off.
Excuse me, man. So we've got three. This is all Regulus models, but you have 3 different distinctive models within the Regulus.
Yeah, those are really just our colorways.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So for people out there, maybe on the website, it's the same Regulus. It's just a different color pattern and all that. And then obviously the combat comes with a threaded barrel and all of that. But I think it's pretty cool that most combat, if someone has a combat model, those are the ones that have the rail and all of that. I like the fact that all of your models, including the combat, are going to have the rail. Basically, the only difference in the combat and the other, if I'm not mistaken, is the threaded barrel. Is that correct?
Thread barrel and suppressor height sights.
And the suppressor height sights.
And it's the only way that you can get the gun in that Cerakote Elite Sand finish.
The sand, yeah. Now, people might think it was FDE or Coyote. It's sand. It's sand. real quick before we move on, I know, Clover, do you have any questions from out there or of your own?
Yeah, G23. You know him and the grip angle.
Oh yeah.
What's the grip angle and why? And are they only producing 9mm?
Well, the grip angle is probably similar to. It's probably between a 1911. It's more like a Smith and Wesson series, but it's. I haven't measured the grip angle, but I can get back to you on that.
I
left my
love
protractor.
G23 for that.
I got a protractor on here somewhere.
I love G23, but every company we have, he wants to know the grip angle, and now it's just becoming one of those things where everyone should know. If you come on the show, you better know the grip angle question because it's coming. And you were talking earlier about the G10 grips, and this is not a 1911. It's 1911-ish, but I like the idea because the G10 grips are great grips. And now that you're having a gun that's not necessarily 1911, but also being able to have the G10 grips, I think that's pretty cool because people like customizing their own guns and putting different colors and all that. So I think that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, and I think the second part of that question was about 9mm.
Oh, 9mm, yeah.
To answer that, look, guys, it's the most popular round there is right now.
It's the king.
We're just getting up off the ground. So who knows? Someday we might have them in 45, 10mm. Who knows? But right now, we got to get this thing working at 9. And it is a phenomenal gun to shoot in 9mm because you got to remember, you've got, the 4140 steel slide, the 70-75 aluminum frame. So it's got some mass behind the gun. You put that light recoiling 9mm round in there. The gun is just so much fun to shoot.
Yeah. Gun Snob out there wants to know, are they going to offer an optic cut version down the line?
Well, I mean, we get this question a lot, and obviously we see where the market isn't heading anymore. It's there. And we obviously need to be where the market is. So, you can, I think I've been told not to make any promises on air, but
I understand.
You can pretty much figure that
that it's coming. There might be discussions coming soon. Yeah.
We'd be fools not to.
Yeah. Clover, you got anything right now?
Well, I was going to speak to something that was interesting. So, getting ready for SHOT, we get emails from tons of companies, right? Mm-hmm. And one of them was Rob from Lionheart, and I'd never heard of it, but it had a picture there, and I was like, that's interesting. That looks good. I was not prepared, and this was a letdown in a way, because when I walked into the booth and I picked up the Regulus, I was not prepared. Through the pictures didn't do it justice.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. The fit, the finish. They're little works of art. They're beautiful. Quite possibly the best looking handgun I've seen at SHOT the entire trip. And that speaks to where I'm going with that is hearing Rob F talk earlier, hearing you talk Rob C, and just the passion that you guys are putting behind it. It shows in the product. So kudos for that.
Thank you so much. I mean, you really wish you could be in some of the meetings where, we had to talk through some of the, making sure that the Cerakote matches and the top and the bottom of the pistol, every little thing. Rob is a great eye, for packaging and making sure that people, get that the customer experience matches, matches what we want them to have. Honestly, it's matches their expectations. So sorry, a little bit of the brain freeze is still coming on, the brain fog from COVID, but choosing the colors that we did was really something fun to go through. Rob chose this color. I think it's the bronze pistol. We call it the Reveal. That's the model that we use it on. And I was like, oh man, it's kind of a sharp. It's a sharp looking gun. But I was concerned that it might be too good looking, and man, we have sold through those things so fast, and it's shocking. And I think it speaks to you know, to the maturity of the market right now, where guys can look at these guns and really, you know, decide what they want in a gun, and have fun with those guns as well. You know, looking for things that are sort of outside the norm. We have a ton of black, and I'll take responsibility for this one, where I said, let's go heavy on the black guns, because I know the black guns are going to sell. You know, we know that's going to happen. So let's go heavy on black. You know, so we have the blackouts in beta and in alpha, and man, we still got some of those left, but we sure ran out of those, the reveals in the urbans pretty quick.
Well, interestingly, we talk about that. Unknown user out there wants to know, he says he got here late. Has the Regulus blackout been shipped yet? Will distributors be sending them to shop soon? That's one of the things that I wanted to bring up also, is your guys' idea of, it's kind of thinking outside the box for a lot of reasons, where most people are going to say, hey, we want to get to the big distributors because they're going to place large orders. But there's also a downside to that. You guys have a different marketing and distribution strategy as well, do you not? Yeah,
well, you know, it comes down to the customer experience. And when you have a distributor, your distributor is your customer. And, you know, and in reality, a lot of time, like we sell these guns directly to customers through their FFLs. And their FFLs will see the guns. The FFLs will order them as well once they see them, we hope. But, you know, I think it comes down to making sure that we have a relationship with our customers, our end users, whether that's an FFL or an actual, you know, firearm purchaser. You know, they deal with us. They don't deal with our distributors. And I promise you, it is not the easiest way to do business this way. And, you know, I credit Rob for really making sure, you know, driving that point home for the company. I don't know if Rob, if you want to address where that came from.
Yeah, sure. I mean, real quick, the grip angle is 15 degrees, by the way.
Oh, okay. There you go. Someone got the protractor. The engineer got the protractor. He's got it on us. There you go. He's got it. I love it. That's the best I've ever seen, because it's right there. And he said, I got this.
Yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get with Lionheart.
That's right. We're right there with you. We got the answer before you know it. I love it. Love it.
So as far as that goes, you know, I was blessed with Exotec. I talk about, and I don't want to belittle Exotec because it's my baby. It's what got me here, and I love it. But it was training wheels for me. It taught me how to run a business, how to hire employees, how to deal with customers, what kind of customers did you want? Like, just because a customer is willing to write a big check to you, do you really want that customer, right? Is it worth it to make 2% on a big chain store when they cause, basically, to make 2%, you have to hire a bunch of people and manage a bunch of people and take on a bunch more responsibility. And at the end of the day, you're personal as the owner, you see none of it. I learned a lot of that. And one of those things was distributors. I learned that the more distributors you had, the messier it became. And when you try to chase down, so we protect pricing we have MAP pricing, which stands for minimum advertised pricing. And real quick, for those who don't know, it mandates that our customers, our wholesale customers, basically our dealers, cannot sell or cannot advertise the product below that MAP price. And that's why you see where it says add to cart to see price, because that's the rule. Now, we can't tell them what to actually sell it for. So after that, they can sell it for whatever they want. But there's a really good reason for that. And the reason is really Amazon. You can get somebody who starts an Amazon business, third-party seller. They buy a bunch of Exotec products and they sell them for 20% of their cost. And then you've got another guy, and these are both mom and pops who just put down $7,000 of rent on a brick and mortar store a month. He's got a bunch of employees, and he can't live on 20%. He needs to live on way more than that. This is gross. So that's why we do it, because the dealers you actually want as a business are the guys who have the beautiful stores and the great staff. And that takes money to have those people there to answer your questions. If they're intelligent, they're paid well, and they're paid well out of the proceeds from the products that you buy. So I just learned that we needed to keep our distribution network as tight as possible. And even then, when we'd have MAP pricing violations, we'd have to go through a distributor to find out who that customer was. And sometimes they would list under different DBAs, doing business as, like, essentially fictitious names. So it was just this bullshit, like, just you're going around in circles trying to figure out who this dealer is. And I'm like, I do not want to deal with that with firearms, because here I've committed, I and the team, the whole team is committed to developing a premier pistol, and we want to offer just the best of everything. So the best customer service, the best value, not necessarily the most expensive, but literally the best bang for your buck. You can't do that when you're not able to reach out to your customer. What I want is if the dealer has a problem with their gun, or their customer as a dealer, I want the dealer to call me up and say, hey, I'm sending back a pistol. You'll have it tomorrow or the next day, 2 day or whatever. But I want that direct line of communication. I don't want to talk to a dealer, and I'd still be willing to, of course, but I want to have that relationship with the dealer so they know me by first name, and they know that if there's a problem, I'm going to take care of it. Like if I go through a distributor, I also can't control who my customers are. So if you get some shop, right, and there's just a bunch of assholes running the shop, we've all been in those gun stores. We've all been in them. They're going to make the brand look bad. They're going to tell the customer that it's an ammo problem, because that's what they'll tell you. That's what a lot of these guys will tell you, that you're using the wrong ammo, and really it's a gun problem. And it can be either, but we want to have that relationship. So that's why early on we decided that aside from if we had any overstock, which it doesn't look like we'll ever have, but if we had any overstock or overruns of production pistols, we might sell a small percentage of them to distributors. But the more, obviously, the more we get into this, the more I realize that that's just not really the road we want to take. So that's the long answer to distributors.
Yeah, and I love that, because I think that when you create that, let's just call it a relationship, because it may not be just a one gun thing. This might turn into years and years and years with a customer base. But when you start out that relationship, mano a mano, one-on-one, where the consumer and the FFL have direct access to the gun company and not having to go through a distributor, that makes it more of a friendship and a relationship, and say, hey, we're going to do this together. We like your product, and now don't have to worry about, because Clover will tell you, and he brought up another show at one point, depending on where you stand with that distributor also, that dictates if you get said product from the distributor. If you're low man on the totem pole with Sport South, even though Sport South has 1,000 of these guns, that FFL may not get one. They might not get part of that allotment. Now, working directly with an FFL, if there's a person out here in the chat that wants to buy it, they can talk through FFL and they can get through you guys directly. And there's also a way to add to cart through the website, which is really interesting. And so I'm assuming you guys want to talk a little bit about that. Before we do, I got a couple questions I want to catch up. I know Clover might have some stuff as well. By the way, guys out there, it's 18+1 capacity. They do offer 10-round magazines. There was a question about 10-round magazines. That being said, I know that it's a pain in the ass, but is there a future where it could get on the California roster, possibly?
Nope.
I was asking, you have California guys, and that's a tough. I think they're used to that by now, but I did want to ask.
It's really up to the state of California what pistols they want to put on the list,
right.
and right. We're I don't know if any company is going to go through micro stamping, but if that stays on there, there's New Jersey,
New York.
We're with you, and we would love to figure out ways around some of these draconian laws, but it's really not up to us.
It's up to those people that live in those states to make those changes.
Vote for your, right. Choose your representation well.
Yeah. Clover, I know you got some questions out there, and you might have some of your own. Do you want to dive into a couple of those?
Only thing I think we missed so far is we had Born to Be a Shooter was asking about MSRP.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. The guns they range from 1,000 to $1,149, depending on what you want to get. So the basic models, the alphas and betas with regular sights, with our fiber optic sights, are $999, and then they go up to, I think we had $100 for night sights, and then you get up to $1,149 for the combat, which you swap the standard barrel for a threaded barrel, and you get suppressor height sights.
Yep. Unknown user out there. It's on the website. The beta is shown with straight back grips, and the alpha has contoured grips. Can the Alpha be had with straight back grips, or is a contour part of the frame?
Yeah, that contour is actually a part of the frame. So if you like that, I personally really like the Alpha in the way that, it fits my hand. I like that hump. Some guys might not. So the Beta is more of a straight back. It's made for concealment, and it was designed that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back over here and share the screen. So this is gonna be the Beta. Clove, those grips look eerily familiar to some grips that you got not too long ago in a different color, obviously, but they look similar, don't they?
Yeah, they're G10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the G10, the textures and stuff used across a wide variety of manufacturers that make those and other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those G10 grips though, I think they look cool, but man, that is a very aggressive grip. It's not so aggressive that it's going to trash your clothes.
Yep.
But those diamonds, the release around the diamonds really give something for your skin to grip into.
Yeah, because that was one of the first things that I noticed when I held it for the first time was I like an aggressive grip, but I don't like to cut my hands and all of that. But I don't mind an aggressive stippling or aggressive grip, and it definitely was. But like you said, you weren't going to shed skin because of it. But you were definitely, even one of those things where even on a hot day, your hand might sweaty or whatever, you're going to have plenty of support through that grip. It's not going anywhere. Let's see here. So G23 wants to know, can someone custom order a firearm from you guys? I don't know if he means like colors or what. Is there any customization that someone could do if they're willing to pay the price?
Well, we had the only customization that people were asking if they could buy them with threaded barrels in the guns, and we added that to the website. So you can order the betas with the betas and the alphas with threaded barrels now in tall sights. So that was not an option. The other option, obviously, is you can upgrade to night sights. Those are the only options that we're offering right now.
Okay.
The old Regulus under the old Lionheart had something called the custom gun builder, which is what some guys might be thinking of, where you could mix and match all the different parts of the gun, and it was just like, dude, it was like 500 SKUs or something, because they had colors and different colored barrels and different colored triggers, and you could bling the shit out of whatever you wanted, and it was like, it was cool, and I would love, for us to get back to something like that someday. But at this point, we're a small company. I think people need to understand that when every time they call the company or they email and ask for something, it's me, answering those emails, and on one hand, I'm taking what they're saying and I'm bringing it to the CEO, or, I'm adding it to my good idea list. And it goes in, it definitely matters to me in listening to our customers. But on the other side, every time we have to touch a gun, every time we have to do something, it takes away time that we're working on making the gun better or doing other projects. So, we're a small company, and offering custom guns is just not something we have the ability to do right now, but I would love to be able to do it sometime.
Yeah, not to do it well. We look, when you look at what it takes to do that well, the MRP, manufacturing resource planning, it takes to make that and get all that inventory and control all that inventory and all the variants of those is astronomical. Even big companies can't manage to do it very well. So you need an extremely well-oiled company in manufacturing and supply chain long before you ever sign up for something like that. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for 12-month backlogs. And I mean, even if people see there's 12 months to get their gun customized, they're still going to be irritated by it. They're just going to be irritated somewhere along the process. And our goal is not, we don't want that. We want you to be happy when you get it. So we're going to not offer anything that we can't deliver in a reasonable amount of time. And that goes with customization. It's something we like to get into in the future potentially, but we are a production company, right? So we're not trying to be the semi-custom, maybe like Nighthawk or Wilson. We want to be full production, or that's where we're headed, full on production. And if you were asking me where we'd slot in above SIG and HK. So we'd be what SIG and HK would be if they didn't have if they didn't build a gun around price targets, because we don't have goals to sell or to garner military contracts. We're a civilian's pistol, right? That's what we are.
Yeah. Honcho wasn't here earlier. Really, to recap this question, currently the only way to get a Lionheart Regulus is through their website. You guys want to talk about through the website, and then maybe how an FFL could possibly, if someone local gun shop out there is interested, there is a way to go about that process as well.
So this is where I would love for your readers or your viewers. Sorry, I come from the magazine background, but I would love for the viewers, to go in to their FFLs if they're interested and say, hey, I really wanted to get my hands on one of these guns, and then have their FFLs reach out to us, and we have dealer applications and packages set up and they're ready to go. We can hook dealers up and get them set up very, very quickly. But that's one thing that I can't stress enough, that if there's one thing that would really help us out, it's to get us, on the minds of your dealers, so that they know that we're out there and you are interested in the Lionheart platform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they just want to carry, having walked in these stores and talked to a lot of our local dealers, they just want to stick to what they know because it's the lowest risk. Glock and SIG. If you look at their counters, it's all black guns. They're all Glock and SIG. And it's not because they're boring or they want to be boring or whatever. It's because they know those guns will sell, and they don't have to worry about being stuck with $500,000 of inventory.
Exactly.
But a lot of our customers and dealers, once they get their hands on the pistols, they really do enjoy them.
Yeah, I was at my LGS last week picking up a gun, and told him, I said, hey, I don't know if you're interested. I said, but there's a company that I think that probably would fit well with our market here. And because he sells a lot of the XDs, the Glocks, the Berettas, the HKs, the FNs. So it's kind of in that same niche, if you will. And so I don't know if he's contacted you or not. We'll talk off air about that. But I definitely gave him Rob's email. I know Clover's talked to several, and Clover, you want to come in and talk about that? And maybe you had a question out there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring that up. I walked away for a sec. When I come back in, it seemed like Rob C was addressing that. But we had a question out there. Roll call was asking about, getting in touch with his boss at the shop. Now, just almost as soon as I got back from SHOT Show, because quite a few of my local, none of my local dealers went to SHOT Show. It was one of those things. Worst SHOT Show ever, right? But so I approached them with, some connections and contacts and things that I'd made, and one of them was Lionheart. And I said, hey, you guys need to call, you need to email, you need to check in with these guys and see what they're about and what they have. Of course, told them I couldn't speak to, much as far as hands-on with it. But you could tell from talking to both Robs tonight, I would be pretty confident in saying, after talking with you guys, and thanks for coming on and doing that, by the way, my experience just holding it and manipulating everything, and as I spoke to earlier, the quality that seems to be there,
so good.
It would not surprise me a bit if it shot phenomenally.
Well, that's one of the things that we especially need to get these guns in the hands of range owners, shops that have ranges, because as from what we've been told, as much fun as this gun is to handle, it's way more fun to shoot.
Right. Well, and that's big. I mean, you're talking about using it as a demo, and we always tell people, we would say, oh, what's the best gun? I don't know. That's up to the individual. Go shoot a bunch of different guns, and you'll know when you found the right gun. That would be a wonderful thing if you got an FFL that has a range attached. Maybe you could do, maybe not you guys flying out there, but maybe you could set up somehow, maybe doing like a demo day and have that FFL promote a demo day and come out and shoot this new gun. So there's all sorts of marketing aspects to do it. Sorry about I
A
didn't
lot
mean to
of
cut you off, Love.
No, you're fine. Just going to echo what you're saying. A lot of FFLs already have that. I know, the local gun shop that I work through, um, they do small business. They're great at working with a customer, first of all. So we would align well with the mission of Lionheart anyway, I think. But they do for Small Business Saturday, which is a Saturday after Black Friday. They do a customer appreciation thing. Um, and demo firearms, demo suppressors, just everything. And I mean, they sell, I don't know what percentage of the year sales happen on that day, but because
Pretty
they,
good chunk, I'm sure.
cook barbecue and they do other things and they get all those people out there, they do make a lot of sales. But they're also open to, anything, especially anything they have in the case that's used, right? If it belongs, to the dealer or, something like that, or if it's, they've got it set aside for a demo. They're always open if anybody comes in to, hey, take this down to the range and try it out. They don't have rentals per se, but they're certainly open to letting the customers experience the products, which is great.
Yep.
Well, it's funny because it's probably one of our biggest challenges right now is to make sure people know about the product, and we can get the word out to the dealers. But we're in this sort of awkward teenager phase right now too, where we have to be careful about how much inventory that we have, because we're still standing up production in our Georgia factory. So we are, we're super happy to get to sell through the inventory that we have, but we're going to sort of hit this period where people are going to we're starting to, get these emails like, hey, when are you guys going to have this color back in stock or that color? And it's like, we are working as hard as we can right now to get the factory set up so that we can, be manufacturing these pistols in Georgia.
It's a good problem to have, but it's also a very frustrating problem to have. It's a good problem that you're selling what you have. The problem is you don't want to disappoint customers with wait times and lead times. So I get that frustration is real for sure. Go ahead, Glove.
Oh, I was just going to say, filling the orders is number one, right? Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. That's what keeps the doors open.
Keeps the lights on.
It keeps you guys cranking out more firearms. You have to do that.
That was nice.
So I just maybe a little loud out here, but I wanted to show you guys that we really are making the pistols in here. This is our brand new 5-axis machine that we're currently tooling up. Sorry, we have occupancy sensing LEDs,
right?
And they turn off immediately. But this is the pallet changer, so we'll be able to make a bunch of different fixtures. There's already some in there you can kind of see behind me, but we'll be making fixtures, putting them on there, and that's where the frames and the slides will be made. Not a lot to see in here. There's just a little fixture. That's the 5-axis trunnion rotated around. And then unlike a lot of manufacturers, we're making our barrels all in-house on this monster of a machine. This thing is absolutely incredible. It's basically the best of the best you can get. That bar loader will feed, where's my finger? That bar loader will feed the raw material in there in solid bar form. We'll broach. Well, actually, it's rifling in the firearms industry and manufacturing. It's broaching, but we'll actually cut the rifling right in on the lathe. So the raw material will come in like this. This is aluminum for Exotec, but
so it's not pre-cut. It's a block, and you guys go from the block, huh?
Yeah. So if you look at this,
that's awesome.
Right here, this is all pre-hardened 416 stainless that'll go in that, and these will turn into barrels, just little barrel. So we'll drop finished barrels. They'll just need to be lightly deburred and then sent out for DLC coating. The beauty of that is that nobody touches it, meaning the reposition accuracy is very good, so we can get a very, very good concentricity of the rifling and the barrel bore to the chamber, which affects accuracy greatly.
Yep.
So basically, when I spec'd out all the machines, it was in an effort to make the manufacturing process easy, but really to make it affordable so that we could do really, really cool things that nobody else is doing and still not have to sell the pistol for $5,000. I want to sell a really awesome pistol that literally almost any working man could afford. If you save for, $1,000 is not a cheap pistol, but anybody who's middle class can save some pennies over time and afford one. And that's really my goal, is to get really nice cutting edge pistols to people. So I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of the machinery to show you that we really do it in house.
Well, I love that. And Clover made a comment. It's actually worked out perfectly that you're having to use your cell phone because you probably weren't taking your PC and giving us a tour of the manufacturing side. And honestly, that's pretty cool because a lot of companies won't do that or don't do that. And I think it's once again, we're talking about a facade. We're talking about pulling the curtain back behind Mr. Oz. You guys are showing the customer the whole thing. Like, here it is. Here's where we're manufacturing. Here's what we're doing. Here's that. Once again, you're building that relationship by showing that stuff. That's pretty awesome. I love it.
I just want to make sure that people understand how cool it is that, that Rob, that we're making our own barrels. That machine is not a light investment. And, there are ways that you can buy, barrel blanks and make a much lower quality barrel for a much lower investment. And we are pushing ourselves to make sure that this gun is every bit the value that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could bore you with the details on the tooling. I've heard out on all the tooling and the manufacturing processes. I could literally give you a tour all day long. Eventually, we'd love to give tours to people.
Might have to come out to Georgia one time when you guys start doing that. I might have to come out there and do a tour. That'd be fun. It really would be.
Once we're up and running, right now we're still tooling up. I'm actually programming the barrels as we speak. Ordered some tooling and changing out the lathe. We use the lathe for actually some Exotec parts while we were waiting to finish up some details on the Georgia-made barrel. But just to give you an idea, commitment to quality. This is our QC machine. So this thing right here is a Zeiss optical coordinate measuring machine. So what it can do is it can use this tactile sensor right here, this touch probe, and there's rubies on the end of this that are less than a 0.5 millimeter in diameter to get into small little holes. And that's what I measured the extractors that we made for these Regulus, recent Regulus. This right here is a camera that's accurate to sub-micron accuracy. It can take a picture of a hole pattern, and then it can measure it all instantaneously, sub-micron. And then right here, this is a confocal white light sensor, like a laser. So this can measure the height of a surface, again, accurate sub-micron. So in order to make good parts, you need to QC them, right? You need to make sure you're making good parts in order to build good parts, I guess you could say. And that's just one of the many things it takes to make what we're making. And you have to write a program for every single part to run on both the CNC machine and on the CMM machine. They have totally separate programs and they're totally separate skill sets. So firearms manufacturing can be surmised in one word, and that's expensive. Very, very expensive.
I'm going to say this, and Clover alluded to it earlier, but it is so true. Rob, we had some great conversations in SHOT, and I enjoyed getting to know you and all of that. But the cool thing about what I'm learning more, and I'm hoping this is coming out in the podcast and in the live chat. So if you're watching this in replay or listening in podcast form, I hope it's coming out through the airwaves, and you couldn't see necessarily if you're listening to it in podcast, you couldn't see what Rob was just showing you. But what you can hear is the passion. You can hear from both of them the passion they have for their products, for their company. I don't know too many CEOs that are firearm CEOs that are literally at the office still right now programming the barrel machine. I mean, what I'm saying is I love the fact that you guys are 100% hands-on. You don't let quality control just happen. We want to make sure this is perfect, and we want to make sure that every product we send out is worthy of the name and all the hard work that your company's gone through. I can personally hear the passion from both of you. And what that tells me is there probably won't be many issues that you can't deal with or won't deal with down the road, whether it's supply chain issues coming down, getting parts for the barrels or whatever, lead times. You guys know what's coming down the road. And that's a good thing about growing. Those are problems you're going to have to run into when you start talking about production, because people are going to start buying them. But it sounds like you guys are planned ahead. You've got the machines in-house to really make sure. It's just one of those things, like I said, the passion you can hear. They may not be in a podcast when they may not be able to see the machines you just showed, but I don't know what the hell you just said. Like, I don't understand a word you just said, except for I can tell that you were passionate about it. And to me, that's really the ultimate mark. And are these people passionate about what they're doing? You can nerd out over that machine. I would understand a word you were saying, except for the fact I say this guy's serious and he cares. That probably means just as much as anything else. And Clovertech says we have to literally drive past you guys to get to the gathering in March.
You do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I didn't even think about that.
Have to get off 85 for like 20 miles or something like that. Yeah.
Come on by.
We might have to. Might have to
work on that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll be going through during the day, so for sure.
Yeah, so you can see everything up and running. And
it'll be a weekday too.
When is that?
I'll be coming.
I will be driving through that way on the 16th.
16th is when I'll be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may have the barrels up and running, but
they're Wednesday, I think.
First article, so you'll be able to barrels
Wednesday.
Okay. And it was just one of those things. Like I said, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to Walther's factory. They're here in Arkansas, and it's only a couple hours away. And just to see that side of a firearm company, most people never get to see that side of it. And it's amazing what goes into this little item that we have. And it's like there's years and how many people are involved into that little, gun that you just bought at your local gun shop. Most people don't realize what goes into that. Quick question. Go ahead.
That is actually great because I really want people to show, when they get our guns, I want all of that to be transparent. I want them to feel like, they've picked the gun that they want. They know it's expensive. They know that it's a premium gun. And all that stuff that should just be assumed by the consumer. I don't want them to be concerned with any of that shit. Just to know that by the time they get that gun, the amount of care and passion that went into making sure that pistol is going to fire, it's going to run, that it is, that it's combat ready, no matter how good it looks and no matter how, one of the things that we do that a lot of gun companies don't do, is we put a lot of rounds through our guns. And we actually had a customer call up and complain and about, my gun looks used. And I said, I had to get them on the phone and be like, you know what? That's because we put rounds through your gun to make sure that it's going to work before you get it.
Yeah, we don't send you just this gun,
Right. I mean, I've been through, as part of my job, I've been through a lot of firearms factories and a lot of QC stations, and I've seen a lot of what these gun companies do. And there are phenomenal gun companies out there, but I want Lionheart to be the most phenomenal. And I want people to know, I think Rob got mad at me when we were talking about how many rounds we're going to put through these guns before they go out. And I know Andy, our armorer, is upset with me because that there's no better proof in the pudding than putting rounds through the gun before it goes out the door. And most gun companies will put 3 rounds through a gun and then, that's it and make it good. And we're putting 20 rounds through every gun to make sure that we're checking both mags. We're checking the extractor tension. We're checking recoil assemblies, action, everything. It's all checked out because by the time that gun gets into the hands of the end user, I want them to think about one thing, which is that this thing is going to be able to save my life when the time comes down to it.
Absolutely. Not going to tell you guys how to do your thing. I can tell you this. One of the coolest things that I remember, honestly, at this point, I don't remember which one it was. It was a few years back. Go to my local gun shop, pick up a gun that I had ordered, and it had come in. And inside the box was an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper target. Mm-hmm. And it was the actual target. And I think it was like 5 shots, but 3 to 5 shots. But it was a target that supposedly they shot with my gun for QC, and they folded it up and put it inside the box and sent it. And I thought, that's awesome. It might have been, I don't remember who it was. Yeah, but it was, I was like, that's awesome. They actually send the actual target that they use to shoot the gun. So that was pretty cool.
And
it's probably not that common. It's probably more common in rifles. Probably not as common in pistols. What I've seen companies do is they'll put an envelope with spent casings in there. And I don't know, maybe that's something we can do. But honestly, if we did it, it would just be, 20 rounds of brass, on top of the gun. It would probably be kind of a mess.
It would be mess, but it'd be kind of cool. Or maybe just like one of them say, here's one. I mean, it is one of those things where we're talking about the customer. I remember that. Now, I don't remember which brand it was. That might not be a good thing, but I do remember receiving open the box, and the first thing you see is this folded up target. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah.
So they ship I'm assuming they ship in a case, right, with a foam insert, correct?
No, we ship in a soft. We actually, when you buy one of our guns, you get a soft case, a range bag.
Really?
A nylon range bag that holds. I think it'll hold up to 5 mags. I think it might actually. You could probably shove it. No, I don't think you can shove an extra pistol in there, but it'll hold the pistol, mags, cleaning kit, all that stuff.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Rob, you probably have one near you by, don't you?
Yeah, I got one over here. I'm going to grab it.
Well, that makes sense about what I was going to say. If you were talking about a hard case with a foam insert, one thing you could do is you could have the insert machined out on the back side like an ammo holder.
Yeah.
Stick the 20 rounds of brass in that just so that it was there just as a niche thing. But having the range bag is awesome too.
Yeah, that's the range bag
nice.
that you guys get with your Lionheart pistol.
Well done. That's a great classy touch right there.
The executive bag. I like
exactly.
Man. So you literally could walk from the LGS to the range and be ready to go with everything you need, including a range bag. That's awesome.
Now, since we're making suggestions, we're trying to do their job. You could.
Yeah, what's the consulting fee on this, Chris?
You could do You could do an elastic ammo loop that holds 20 rounds inside the bag.
Okay.
Oh, you talking for the spent brass?
Yeah, you've seen the little elastic ammo holders that you put on stock. Sure, they're all belts, whatever. Yeah.
I wouldn't want all. Honestly, I probably wouldn't want all 20. Maybe one or two, but I actually would like to target. We're spending these guys money. You understand that, right?
Self-defense ammo, but here's another thing. Here's another angle to that, right? So self-defense ammo typically is a 20-round box.
Sure.
So you've got a 20-round holder there. So people go to the range a lot of times, and what do? They dump their self-defense ammo and they load FMJs or whatever practice ammo, right? So they've got a place to put their self-defense ammo. It's right there in the range bag. There's a method to the madness. It costs money to do that, of course, and I love spending other people's money. So.
Exactly.
Well, what if we just told you could come and you could test fire your own gun? Come down to our range and you could test fire your own gun.
I tell you what, if you made that an option, you probably would have people that would show up. That would be awesome. That would be something that very few companies do. Come down and shoot your own. And there was a company that we talked to not too long ago that there's a package that you have the firearm and you get some training out of it. But one of the parts of the package is you go and let's say like you have all the parts of that gun and it's lying on a table. You go to that table and you're with help and people over your shoulder. If you don't know what you're doing, literally put your specific gun together, put the barrel in, put the springs in, do all of that. And you get to fire your own test shots. You could do that if it's like an extensive package deal or something. That would be really cool. I bet you probably get people that would show up. Now you got to worry about having random people showing up to your just
Build a Bear workshop or something.
Build a Bear workshop. Just
build
like
a Lionheart workshop.
I'm spending your money here, so feel free to tell me to shut the hell up.
No, these are all great ideas. I got my pen. You saw me. I'm taking notes right here.
Yeah.
Real quick before we kind of start sweeping the floor, there was a question G23 wanted to ask. Once again, this is all down the road. Any thoughts of a flat trigger coming? A
flat trigger? I don't know that would work with the geometry of our pistol.
And with the whole idea of the double action plus, that could be interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do it, but if you think about the way a flat face trigger would work with a double action, it would be so far forward it would be like, grabbing you'd have to hook pretty good on it. I don't know that it would work.
Or you'd have to extend the whole trigger guard. I mean, you would have to make that a bigger trigger guard, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
There was a question out there in the chat. I like flat triggers on ARs. I'm not a big flat trigger fan on pistols. That's just me, but there are people out there that do. So I wanted to make sure that I gave G23 the time for that question. They're talking about the reloading side, that they want the brass cases. That's because brass is hard to come by right now. So they want you to pay for their
primers
brass
in there with it. Could you put some primers in there?
Primers? Yeah, I mean, not a problem.
9mm is not. I'm still saying 9mm like $5 for once fired. So. Yeah.
Dude, like Rob, remember when we had this conversation? It was almost 6-8 months ago, and the height ammo was, I don't know how much money, and I was like, we need to get ammo. We need to get 9mm ammo in a hurry, and we bought. God bless you. We went out
stupid amounts of ammo.
Sourced the ammo, bought it, and we probably could have mortgaged. You probably needed a mortgage to afford those drums of ammo that we bought for testing.
Guaranteed.
But we're going through it. And I think
the time was 90 cents a round.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Man.
So just, we talked about the acquisition of Lionheart. A lot of things are timing, and sometimes you get your timing right, and sometimes you don't.
You got most of your timing right on a lot of things. The ammo, not so much. Yeah, you could have, man, that sucks.
Yeah. It was.
I like the fact that, once again, you didn't shy away from that investment. You knew it was an investment that you had to make, and it's going to hurt the pocketbook to get 90 cents around for 9mm, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Pretty sure Rob hated me at that point.
Well, that was about the time Rob told me. We had just finishing running 10,000 rounds through one gun, doing like a life cycle testing.
90 cents around.
Yeah.
Now
that was the $10,000 gun test.
Now he said, then he wanted me to take, I think we ended up going with 3 guns and do 5,000 rounds through each, and then swap all the parts for part compatibility, real life testing. So that was another 15,000 rounds. When he told me about that, I almost had a heart attack.
So let me get this right. Just saying, throwing it out there. He's one of the guys that's going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. That's how I roll too. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I think is right. No, by the way, I'll figure out if I can need to ask for forgiveness later on. But it probably hurt. But it's actually probably, I think, Rob F, I'd probably say that you're probably ultimately glad that they decided to do that, because that's just going to help the quality, and it's going to show your customers that you're serious about it as well.
It's really a necessary evil. I mean, he has the best.
It is.
He's Rob's received. Actually, he received firearms that don't function when he goes to write a review about them, and it's a two-edged sword, because it puts the reviewer in a really bad spot, not just the manufacturer.
Well, not some, but if you're good at what you do and have any respect for being legitimate and truthful, then yes, it puts you in a bad spot for sure.
So we want to make sure that, I will be the first one to tell you that nothing in this world's perfect, including any firearm. There's no perfect firearm, and you can always test more. You just basically test until you run out of money, is what it comes down to. You keep testing and testing and testing. Building survival products is not new to me. A gun is a survival product, right? And I've been doing that since 2009. So I understand that even once the product is tested, we'll often have SMEs come back to us months or years later on the Exotec side and say, hey, the product works great, but I think you could improve this, this, or this. And we'll make those changes. That's the beauty of making the parts yourself in-house. We have a new production run going on the line. We have a work order for it. Hey, let's review the drawings. Let's change this tolerance so that we don't have this issue in the future, and move forward. But that same thing applies to firearms. We want to make sure that we can get it absolutely as perfect as possible right off the bat, and then things happen. But we want to try to eliminate those. So when we do send it to a customer or a reviewer, that it's going to perform better than their expectations.
Yeah, my perspective on that is that every customer is a reviewer, and I want to make sure that everybody has the same experience with our firearms.
Yeah, a reviewer doesn't need to be in a magazine or on YouTube. It's word of mouth, which is probably the strongest review you can get is word of mouth. So, roll call 209 out there. He actually works at an FFL at a gun dealer. He's going to tell his boss, but he says, "I can't wait. Tax time can't come soon enough." So not only may you get one in his hands, but his boss at the gun shop as well. So that could be a really cool thing for you guys.
I would love it.
Yeah, Clove, before we start sweeping and let them kind of I just looked at the time. I had no idea. We've been going for an hour and 45. So I apologize for Rob and Rob. I probably had no intention of going this long. Great conversation. For those that are still out there, God bless you. God bless you. Especially if you're watching this in replay or listening in podcast form. Kudos. Love you guys. Real quick. I don't know if you guys know who Yankee Marshall is. Rob C, you probably have through the recoil days. You probably heard of Yankee. Yankee's he's a friend. He is who he is. He's been talking about you guys a little bit too on his channel. He's been getting some people asking. So the word's getting out there. People are starting to hear about this. So I hate to say this. I think you're getting ready to get as busy as you want, or maybe even busier than you want here pretty soon. So that's not a bad thing, but it's going to be interesting. Chloe, before we let them close out, do you have anything that you need to ask or want to ask before we move on?
Yeah,
to
I want to go back to this 3-gun mix up the part thing for a second.
Yeah,
we
I
kind of
wonder if
glossed
you caught
over
that or
that.
not.
So
yeah,
like, what were the particulars? Did you just throw stuff in a box and shake it up, or how did that work? And then what did you learn from it?
Well, go ahead, Rob. He's the boss.
So, in the engineering world, you can do dimensions and you can do manufacturing prints all you want, right? But there's always a design estimate. So you're estimating that these dimensions need to be within these tolerances based on your experience. And I'm not a firearms engineer, but I have one on payroll, and he's exceptional. He's designed some firearms that all of you guys would know. Very famous firearms, modern firearms, and worked for some companies that you would also know. So he would go through the drawings, but every gun is different, and you have to get the gun out there and test it. So if you say breech face the hook on the extractor needs to be 40 thousandths or 50 thousandths, and plus or minus 5 thousandths of an inch, and you go to the range and you test it, and you realize, well, these 3 guns out of 10 don't work. Why do they not work? So then you got to go back and go analyze every single part and use that CMM machine that I showed earlier to measure every part if it hasn't been measured already, and try to find the discrepancy between the 2 firearms. Once you've narrowed it down, you're going to realize that your tolerance is too wide, so you need to tighten up that tolerance. That is done through functional testing, and you can test one gun and it can work perfectly, and you can test another gun and it might work perfectly. The stars do align right now and then, and a production run a part can be run all on the high side of the tolerance, meaning if you run a little bit bigger on the entire production run, so that production run might run great, but then the very next one, it's run on the low side or a smaller part, and all of a sudden you're having all kinds of issues, and everybody has seen these happen. You bought a product before that doesn't work, but the reviews why doesn't it work? Well, they don't have their tolerance incorrect, and that's what that does. We swap around parts to mix and match, and ideally you choose parts that are high side, low side parts if you've measured them, and sometimes you just want to do a random test. In this case, it was just a random test. Some of these parts, when we acquired the business, were already manufactured. We finished a couple of them, but some of the geometry was set and we couldn't change it. So we wanted to just randomize it and do a test to make sure that everything was good. And we learned some things from it. We learned that some of the springs are really particular about their free length. The free length of a spring is, if you just set a spring on a bench and measure it without compressing it, that's the free length, and that affects its ultimate spring rate when you use it in practice. And if those spring rates, I could get very technical, but I'm going to try not to.
I think you just did.
Yeah, let's just say that the springs.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I'm a Marine, bro. I eat crayons. You're way over my educational experience here.
Sometimes the springs vary more than the print says they should, if that makes sense. So real world varies more than what it is in CAD, and that's what you find out when you start making these guns. And That's why making firearms, specifically pistols, because everything is so small and it's all jammed in there, is so challenging. You don't see pistol manufacturers crop up very often at all, brand new ones. It's very, very rare that new ones crop up that aren't working on an existing platform, because it's extremely challenging, and millions and millions and millions of dollars of development go into a new pistol platform. And this is not a new pistol platform, but millions still been spent on it by, we call it Lionheart Old. So that was the previous ownership by Lionheart Old. So there's a huge investment put into this, and we're continuing obviously to invest. But that's why it's so expensive.
There's a lot to be said. And I'm sure Clover wants to follow up real quick as well. But there's a lot to be said about Glock. Okay, and good, bad, and different. What Glock has done, and that's one of the cool things about Glock, is you could theoretically 20 Glock 19 Gen 3s, take them all apart, switch up the parts, and put together 20 Gen 3 Glock 19s, and they'll all fire.
Yeah.
Whether or not that is a truth or not, that's fantasy. And to a certain extent, that is true, because they have taken the time to make sure everything is the same. And the fact that you guys are willing to go and do that and make sure that, hey, we interchange some of these parts to make sure that these things are down to the 500th of an inch, in the 5,000th of an inch, the same. That's awesome. That's one of those things. Once again, we're talking about quality versus value and all of that. I want to know, it's like Rob C said, I want to know, when I take this out of the case and I have to shoot it to defend mine or my family's life, I don't have to worry about if it's going to hang up. Ultimately, that's the idea of what these tools are. So it's pretty cool. Do you have a follow-up, Clove?
No, I'm good.
Okay. We could go on for 6 hours. I promise you. We can get as nerdy as you want. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you guys a few minutes each to talk about where they can reach you. I'm only putting links out there in the chat. Anything else that we miss that you want to get out, take this time to do that. But promise me one thing. You guys got to come back on. Another time, because I've got maybe 20 more questions throughout this conversation that have popped up in my head on my notepad that we could get as nerdy as you want, but promise me you guys will come back soon and we can have another discussion. But I don't want to go much more than 2 hours, because I know that you guys are probably got to use a potty break and all that as well. But I'm going to give you guys a few minutes each to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, whether about the product, the company, anything and everything.
Well, I'll just the best I can say is I would recommend people following us on Instagram. And I know people say that all the time, but part of being different is we want to be transparent. We want to show the process. We want you guys to be involved, because a lot of people find it really cool. Obviously, I'm a nerd, and I always have been, and I love manufacturing. And I
am too.
Stuff, right? So
I'm not an engineer, but I'm a nerd. I like to nerd out on stuff, especially stuff that I don't know about, because that's really what I like to do.
You appreciate it. You can learn something. Heck, who knows? Maybe we'll get somebody in the trade of CNC machining, which, by the way, 5-axis CNC machinists who program make over 6 figures. So there's a huge career in blue collar, like Mike Rowe talks about. And if I can convince somebody to get in the field, then I feel really happy about that. But other than that, I can just educate you guys to show that, hey, this is what it takes to make a firearm. Here's everything that gets involved. And when we say we're back ordered or we're out of stock, you understand why, because there's so much that goes into building this firearm. There's so many operations and so many coatings and so many processes. But mostly what you'll see is the machining process. And many companies, very, very few show it. A lot of them are worried about trade secrets. And there are trade secrets. There may be some that we don't show and some that we mask off. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is if you're motivated enough to do it, me hiding it or not showing it, it's not going to stop you from doing it. And me showing you might get you a leg up, but there's enough food to go around for everybody. So right. I'd rather show it to people. So if you follow us on Instagram and you read and you watch the stories, it hasn't started yet, but once I start setting up the barrels in the machine, we'll have some updates here and there, and it'll be a little sporadic. One day you might see some. The next day one day I've got my programming hat on. The next day I've got my CEO hat on. So it depends on which Rob you're talking to that day, which personality.
So how do we know which day it is? Like when Rob C walks in the door, how the hell is he going to know which hat you've got on?
You can ask. You can ask.
I
my
just
wife.
assume he's got all of them on. He actually he walks around with a stack of hats on his head,
Big old hats.
so it doesn't matter.
I am as unpredictable as unpredictable. So I can tell you, all I can say is just keep an eye out, and we'll share some cool stuff on our story that you only see while the story's live. And we'll see how that develops. I'm not big on being behind the camera. It's not like I'm not a Instagram personality, and I have zero aspirations to be one. But I also recognize when I share the processes, I've shared the process up for the last year during this Lionheart transition with friends via other social media, just privately. They all think it's so cool. Like I'll put on Snapchat, just on my Snapchat story, which is only friends. So if there's confidential information, nobody really else can see it. And they just think it's so cool to see the cat or the CNC or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I realized maybe other people want to see it. So we'll see where it goes. If it goes somewhere, maybe we'll develop it into like a weekly thing. But for now, it's gonna just be a little bit impromptu.
Absolutely. That would be really cool to see as well. Yeah, like I said, I enjoy seeing and learning about that stuff. I don't understand all of it, but I think it is once again pulling that curtain back and seeing what's behind the curtain. I think is a valuable, powerful thing that a lot of companies don't do. That I think customers appreciate that. They really do. They want to know, like, oh man, he's serious about this, and that's pretty cool. And that's how a barrel's made. I had no idea how a barrel, or whatever it might be. That's pretty cool.
You'll see. So a good way to learn is just to follow, literally just like I said, follow us on Instagram. For example, I have this block of aluminum sitting next to me. And if you noticed, it's paper.
Oh.
So this is how our frames all start out, as a solid billet that's been water jet cut out of a 7075 aluminum plate. And then you'll have to watch our Instagram channel to see the rest.
I've got the links out there. I've got links to, guys, if you're watching live or in replay. The links for the website, Facebook, and Instagram are there. They'll also be in the description. If you're listening to podcasts, they'll be in the description as well. So you'll have links to all of those things as well.
We appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Like I said, we're here. I don't bring people on just to bring people on. And I like bringing companies on that I like. And we've got a phone call. This might take a while. Hold on just a second.
Pat Hirsch.
Oh, Pat Hirsch. Yeah, let's see what this is real quick. Armed Citizen Podcast. Who's this?
Take a wild guess.
Hey, Pat. How you doing, man? We've been going for almost 2 hours, so I'm going to preface this. I'm loving to have you on. Let's ask a quick question, if you don't mind. These guys have been on air for 2 hours, so if you don't mind making it quick, we'll do that.
Yeah, no, actually, I just wanted to throw a comment to the guys out there.
Awesome.
Love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely awesome. Been following you guys for a little bit now, and yeah, like that you guys were pulling the curtain back and just kind of showing kind of how everything was going and everything. So that was really my only comment tonight, and just to say hey to everybody, to Clove and everybody on the panel tonight. So,
awesome having you, man.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Absolutely. You too, bro.
All right, Pat.
All right.
Later, Pat, man. Be good. Yeah, I like having the phone calls. That's one of those things where Pat calls a lot, but he only calls if he's interested in something. So that's a good thing that you struck something with him, and that's a good. I think he's in Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Nebraska. Pretty sure he's in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Well, if I could close out, the only thing I wanted to point out is that our company motto means a lot to us, and that's heirloom quality and combat ready. And those are two things that we really, really strive for. And every pistol that goes out and everything that we do revolves around, those four words. And I hope that our customers can appreciate that. And that's really about it.
That's for sure. And really loved having you guys. Like I said, I'm serious. I know we went a lot longer than we thought. I had no idea. It's a good conversation, but I've got so much more. So much more I got to know. So I'd love to have you guys back on another month or so and all of that. Real quick, we had a poll out there. What's the most important when buying a gun? Coming in first place with 47% is features, price at 29%, aesthetics at 13%, and 9% with customer support. Interesting. I thought that interesting. I'll just say interesting. So yeah,
we're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks everybody for watching live. Clove, as always, real quick before we head out, let people know what you've got going on in your channel, podcast, and all of that. Take a few minutes to sweep the floor.
Video drop today, as they normally do on a Tuesday. One of probably the very first full-length videos, comparison between the BRG-9, which we premiere of that, or the world premiere of that was at SHOT this year at Range Day. Comparison between it and what people are saying it's a copy of, which is the XD9. Just so happens I have an XD9 and I have a BRG-9 here, and did that comparison. Is it a copy? You have to watch the video and find out, right? As far as podcast, I'm actually looking forward. I think we're scheduled to talk to Rob Squared on a podcast end of Marches, something like that. But this week we've got Throom, Ricochet Free Targets, and Break Arms lined up for Wednesday and Thursday on the podcast. So get over there, set the reminders on those, and join us for that.
Awesome. Yeah, as always, we got some stuff coming out, a lot of products. Obviously, we saw at SHOT Show. Gonna be doing some reviews for some of those products. More importantly, next week's show, we have Kat from Global Ordnance going to be coming and joining us. So if you guys are interested, they've got the Strybog, but they've got ammo. They've got a couple AREX or AREX. I don't even really know how to say it, but AREX firearms to talk about, and a couple new models out there. So if you guys are familiar with Global Ordnance, come by next week. We'll have Kat on. She's a trip, by the way. So if you never met Kat, you're gonna be in for a treat. She's I think Rob, you probably know Kat. She was with a couple different. She's fun. I'll put it that way. She's definitely a fun
from Adam's Arms.
Huh?
She's I think she likes motors. I think she likes motorcycles.
She does, and she'll tell you what's on her mind too. She's awesome. But yeah, looking forward to that. Pat, appreciate you, brother. $10 super chat. Thanks everyone to the super chat. You guys know where that money goes. I appreciate you guys. So yeah, thank you everyone for asking the questions out there. If you're watching live and you're still here, thank you guys. If you're watching this in replay or listening in podcast form for 2 hours, bless you, bless you, bless you.
You might need therapy. Just saying.
What's that?
You might need therapy. Just saying.
You might need therapy, 100%. Anyone that listens or watches my stuff to begin with might need therapy. Just saying. But no, thanks everyone that's out there, is always watching, always supporting the channel, supporting the products and the companies we work with. It means a great deal to me to know that you guys, for some reason, trust what we do around here and take that. But yeah, thanks for the Rob Squared for coming on. We appreciate you guys. We look forward to having you guys back sometime and maybe getting nerdy down some of those lines as well. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day yesterday, and everyone get to the range, be more proficient with your firearms, take someone new to the range. We all remember what the first experience, that adrenaline rush was with the first time we pulled a trigger. Take someone new to firearms out there. You never know. You could turn them into an ally. Make sure you're keeping up with all two-way legislatives in your local, state, and federal representatives out there. Make sure you're holding them to the fire. And if you don't like what they're doing, then vote them out. The midterms are going to be very crucial this year. We will see you next week. Semper Fi.